Bonjour,
Ok, très bien. Bonjour. Comment ça va?
ça va très bien. Et toi?
Très bien, merci. Anyway, it's great to see you, and I'm excited to taste the wines. I already did taste them yesterday, and they were very impressive, to say the least. So, it really, really exciting. Reds and the white was beautiful too.
Thank
So I'm
you.
excited to get some background information again on your thoughts on the vintage and the wines. So tell me what your overall thoughts are about um, 2018, because it was rather complicated with mildew and all sorts of other quite dramatic, lots of rain and dry summer.
Absolutely. Yeah, it wasn't an easy vintage. As you said, the pressure of mildew at the beginning until beginning of July was tremendous. And so it was very difficult to protect the grapes against the mildew. And for sure, the mildew was responsible of a yield that is lower than the average. And you know that some estates produced very, very low yield. And then, fortunately, yeah, we had 3 months of very dry weather. And then, beginning of September, we were in a great situation, except for the young vines. So we had to, we don't have any tool to help the young vines against the water stress. We cannot irrigate, so we have just to accept that for the young vines, it was also a difficult situation. So after the mildew, we had this stress that was too high for the young vines. Fortunately, of course, and for the old vines, and depending on the soil, we had an exceptional concentration, and so we were able to pick the grapes in perfect conditions until mid-October. And then the other difficulty was during winemaking, because we had very small berries, very high concentration in tannins, anthocyanins, and so we had really to extract carefully. And I have to admit that we, in some cases, for some tanks, we did some mistakes, and because the extraction was so quick, so
Wow.
intense, that we had to stop immediately. But sometimes it was too late, and so we have learned a lot in 18. I think it was probably the first vintage where the concentration could be too high, and so for 19 and 20. We decided, for example, for some tanks, not to do any pumping overs. So, and probably for the first time at Château Margaux. So we know that today, in some situation, for some blocks, for some vintages, we can make one without any pumping over. And so, because the berries are so concentrated and small, that we have just to use the alcohol, and the alcohol, of course, it's high. So we have just to use the diffusion and not to touch the berries.
And you know that's the infusion style of winemaking has become, more I don't like a la mode. There are guys like Thomas Duclos
Yeah.
and people like that.
Okay.
It's been mostly on the right bank, but it's really interesting that it's not really fashionable. You're saying it's actually a necessity because you're picking grapes a little bit riper, and then also the berries are much smaller.
Yes, and the alcohol is much higher than before.
Yeah.
And you know that the alcohol is a big solvent for tannins. So we don't need to take the tannins. The tannins go so easily into the wine. So and then the second part was, I think, the decision for the blendings. That 18 was big, massive, a lot of tannins, high concentration. So when we decided the blend of Château Margaux, we decided to take the most elegant, the fresher wines to make the blend of especially Château Margaux and as well Pavillon Rouge. And so we some blocks didn't go to the blend of Château Margaux just because the wines were too tannic and were not in the style of Château Margaux. So I think the risk in 18 was probably to make a wine of 18 before to make a wine of Château Margaux. And so the decision of the blends, I think, gave to the blends the style of Château Margaux. And I am happy with the tasting today, because I think the aging was very positive for the wines. And I am very happy to taste the wines today, much fresher, much more elegant than they were in Primeur.
Let's taste the Pavillon Rouge to start off. And also they're very aromatic as well. They're complex. They're not super marked by, Soleil or anything. You get complexity.
Yes.
The tannins are very, they're chewy, but they're very fine. They're fine grains. Le grain, c'est très fin.
Yeah, and they come just at the end. All the tasting, the first part, second part is just the roundness of the wine, the power, the volume, but no astringency. And this is, yes, a very good surprise, I would say.
Okay, let's try the Grand Vin now.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, what was the blend of the Pavillon Rouge?
So Pavillon Rouge is 69 Cabernet Sauvignon, 19 Merlot, 9 Petit Verdot, and so 3% Cabernet Franc.
That's on this wine. It really it's very complex and doesn't seem like a warm vintage with all the tobacco, ash, sous-bois. Don't you agree? It's very complex. It's not just fruit.
Yes, absolutely. The first nose, when you just open the bottle, is very shy. It's very closed. And so the wine really need some time just to develop. But then I agree with you. Then it's very pure, very deep aroma, but complex and fresh. It's not at all a warm vintage when we smell it. I totally agree.
Oh, exactly. Why do you think that it came out that way? That the grapes, was it very cool at night?
Yes, we said that, and it was true. Yes, that the nights were, but at the beginning as well, probably the wines when we tasted in Primeur, it was. I think the tannins were very present, very showing a lot, and then maybe the alcohol as well.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I think we have a much better harmony in all the components. And no, I don't have any explanation, but the result is that, yes, we have a great balance now between all the elements, much better than en primeur to me. So it's the reason I'm much more.
When I tasted the wines en primeur, I tasted in the last week of March in 2019, and I found I even wrote the wines are very approachable and drinkable. I didn't find them tannic, but a lot of other people read my stuff and they were going like, no, he like he doesn't know what he's talking about. And now it's totally like I said.
So you were right. Yes, probably. Yes.
Once in a while. But the wines haven't. It's so funny because your first impression, you taste them and you want to drink them, and then you taste it again. Then the tannins come. So I like that different sort of stages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The tannins are very seamless here on the Margaux.
Mm-hmm. You know that today Pavillon Rouge is made with blocks that 20 years ago made Château Margaux. See, because if we add Château Margaux Pavillon Rouge, it's 66%, and 66% was a percentage of Château Margaux in the 80s. So we can say that today Pavillon Rouge, of course, has not the level of quality of Château Margaux, but it is made with blocks making Château Margaux before. So I think Pavillon Rouge has improved a lot in quality, and of course also Château Margaux also because we are much more selective. So the composition of Château Margaux is 90% Cabernet Sauvignon, which is very usual now as well, and 4% Cabernet Franc, 4% Merlot, and 2% Petit Verdot.
I had a conversation with one wine producer, and they were saying, "Oh, yes, some journalists in France were asking me if I would compare 2018 to 1982 because the wines have such drinkability, but the 82s did not have the tannin structure of these wines or the concentration." But I understand why they say it, but it's in that you can taste it and drink it and it's beautiful. But yeah, it's unless you want to say it's a super 82, I don't know. But I really love, it's a pretty unique wine because you could say the tannins, you say mildew, tannins, then you could say 1961, reduced production. But no way, because what I read is the 61 were like undrinkable for 20 years or something because they were so concentrated. So, I think that this is a pretty unique vintage.
Yeah, I think we cannot compare the wines made in the 80s and the wines made today, because as you said, concentration is totally different. The IPT, the index for tannins for 82 is a 55. And 55 was considered as a high index. And today, all the wines of Château Margaux for the last 5 years and maybe 10 or 70, 75, 80. So wow. We are making, and it's more than 80 for Château Margaux 18. Of course, the analysis is different than feeling and tasting, but for sure, 18 is a total different wines than 82 for sure.
Okay, so finally, the Pavillon Blanc. And
yes.
I was surprised this morning by the freshness of Pavillon Blanc. And it's really serré. It's very tight and long. You would have thought it would be a little bit sort of bigger, but it's really, fine.
I think the white wines in the Medoc, and especially in here at Margaux, I think were specifically fresher and more acidic than in Pessac-Léognan. And I think, yes, in 18 specifically, the Medoc maybe was a better place for white wines. And so I totally agree that we have the style of 17, even if 17 to me is probably one of the best vintage of Pavillon Blanc, but 18 it is in the same style. We have the tension, we have a complex aroma, and the finish is very fresh. And it's a very, very, very good Pavillon Blanc.
What is the analysis? What is the pH of that?
pH is 3.1, so which is very low.
Oh my God, that's really boom, acidity.
Yeah, but I'm so happy that in such conditions we are able to produce this style of wine. And one reason is that the yield of Pavillon Blanc is very low. It's between 20 and 30 hectoliters. And so as the yield is very low, we have a very quick ripeness of the flavors. And then we are able to pick very early. So we picked these grapes late August, and so at a high level of acidity. And it's just because all the other parameters of the ripeness are ready. And so we can pick. And so we pick much earlier than before. And so thanks to the level of yield, I think we can preserve this style.
Well, Philippe, listen, thank you so much for the quick tasting and for your thoughts. It was really succinct and clear on why you had such a successful vintage. There were some of the most exciting wines I've tasted so far. I've tasted 500 wines so far, and these are really exceptional. But it made me really understand better how you did it. And congratulations, as always, you're making incredible wines. And also please take care of yourself. I know times are tough in France, but we'll all get through this together. And I look forward to seeing you, the team, and Corinne at Margaux very soon.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we will taste together en primeur or maybe later, but we'll see. But
Okay,
yeah, thank you
ami.
very much.